Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. I was lucky enough recently to see an early screening of A24's new comedy horror kind of film called Death of a Unicorn, starring Jenna Ortega, Paul Rudd, and Will Poulter. Today I want to give you a spoiler-free review and then a spoiler talk section. So if you've seen the film, stick around. And if you haven't seen the film, I'll give a spoiler-free recommendation. So the plot of Death of a Unicorn is very straightforward, right? Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd have a strained father-daughter relationship. They're driving to go to like a business meeting, I believe, or like this sort of like corporate event hangout thing with this new person that Paul Rudd might be potentially working with and having a partnership with. Paul Rudd is a lawyer, and on the way there, Paul Rudd hits a unicorn with his car. And from here, right, they take the unicorn in their car, and then the kind of people that Paul Rudd was going to work for want to experiment on the unicorn because they find out that its body and its blood and its bones have healing properties that could change the world of modern medicine. And then it becomes this thing of like, oh, the unicorns are going to kill us and attack us. And all of this probably sounds stupid, right? You're probably hearing me describe the plot going, that sounds silly. And it is, all right? It's a silly movie. It's a silly premise. The title is silly. The posters are silly. The trailer is silly. I'm kind of tired of Gen Z and millennials being like, that looks stupid. That looks so random. Are you watching that stupid Death of a Unicorn movie? It's like, yeah, it's trying to be stupid. Like, I'm just trying to imagine if people like 10, 20, 30 years ago when Beetlejuice came out just went, that looks stupid. What a stupid looking movie. It's like, yeah, it's trying to be campy and dumb and stupid. On top of that, I've seen a lot of letterbox reviews complaining that like this movie is like obnoxiously on the nose in its sort of like anti-capitalist sentiment and this like anti-modern medicine sentiment. Like, yeah, this is an obnoxious, silly satire movie. It's not super serious. I'm just really surprised to see people so harsh on what is otherwise just a pretty well-made fun time at the movies. Not everything needs to be The Brutalist, you know. This is a 2-hour movie that was a bit of fun, and personally I enjoyed it. I thought Jenna Ortega was actually really good here and wasn't really doing the usual kind of like I'm not like other girls thing. Like, she is presented like that on paper, you know. She has kind of issues with her father and she dresses different and she's anti-establishment compared to everyone else there, but there's a surprising depth between Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega's character, in my opinion. I thought their strained relationship was actually really well explored. There's literally the opening scene is this interaction between Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega where Jenna Ortega is sleeping on Paul Rudd's shoulder, and initially it seems like a really sweet daddy-daughter moment, but very quickly the movie actually turns it on its head, and it's actually a really scathing moment for Paul Rudd's character. He comes off looking like a massive piece of shit dad, and from there I thought the tension between Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd was the kind of highlight of the movie. Normally in these movies, right, the punky teenage daughter that isn't like other girls and isn't like other kids and is too smart for everyone comes off really obnoxious and annoying. And even in situations like when there's a unicorn, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, like chill off on your dad, you know, chill out on your dad. Of course he doesn't believe in unicorns. But in this movie, given the conflict they set up, given what the father witnesses played by Paul Rudd with the unicorn, you get why she's annoyed at him. You get the tension and you get why this whole conflict is actually sort of emblematic of their relationship in general. You know, I thought it was really well done. I thought the way the movie set up the fact that the mother has passed away, the tension between them, and just how much of a douche Paul Rudd was willing to be was kind of refreshing. Paul Rudd is an incredibly likable actor. I've seen reviews complain that Paul Rudd is at his most unlikable here. And yeah, I think that's 100% intentional. This guy is almost irredeemable. And this movie is very much doing that thing where the young person of the group, the young daughter, is the only one that believes truly in the unicorn. And it's really frustrating for her that everyone else doesn't believe what she believes, even though she's on the money. But I think the thing this movie does well is it's actually really annoying. She's got cold, hard evidence, and her father is incredibly dismissive. And I think the vehicle here actually works. Instead of you seeing there being like, okay, well, go easy on your dad. Of course he doesn't believe it. You are frustrated with her. I found Paul Rudd's father character here incredibly annoying, and I think intentionally so. I think it was really, really well done. I think the tension here was good. I thought it was good. On top of that, you have Will Poulter serving an incredible performance as this bratty kind of nepo baby rich kid, the son of the kind of medical camp that are trying to harvest the powers of the unicorn. You also have Richard E. Grant from Saltburn recently, who is just crushing it as the guy, the father that is kind of the evil. He's the villain of the piece, right? He wants to experiment on this unicorn that just wants to leave and go back to its unicorn family, and he's kind of the reason all the drama and horror is unfolding. And I thought he was excellent as well. So I actually thought this movie was a bit of fun. It's not perfect, and I think my big issue with this movie is that it's 2 hours. This is a fun, stupid, silly movie, and there is no reason it needed to be longer than 90 minutes because the opening chunk is awesome. The ending chunk, where it actually turns into this like kind of unicorns tearing apart this medical facility, is genuinely really exciting and really gory and really well done and also really funny. Will Poulter especially is hilarious. But the journey to get there, I will say, the pacing starts to lag a bit. Once this movie starts really taking its time, you're like, what the fuck are we doing? Because when the movie slows down, that's where the absurdity of the premise starts to be a little less charming, and you start being like, okay, if we're going to spend more time on this, I want this to hit harder. Now, I'm going to get into spoiler talk because surprisingly, there are actually things I can spoil and things I want to talk about. So if you haven't seen the movie, if you are interested, if you watch the trailer and went, that looks like a fun time, go see it. If you watch the trailer and went, God, movies are so shit nowadays, that looks so, don't bother. Don't bother, because the movie will not win you over at all. But yeah, if it interests you, if you watch the trailer and it interests you, go see it. Now let's talk about spoilers. So yeah, as I said, the movie gets noticeably more gorier in the last chunk. I think the pacing issues fall apart when Richard E. Grant and Paul Rudd and all the people kind of go into the woods, and you're sort of waiting for the gore to pick up, and it's not quite, and it's sort of just, you know, the unicorns are going to start tearing shit up, and I think waiting for that to happen was like a little slow. In saying that though, I loved the last 20-30 minutes. It got properly unhinged, properly crazy. I thought, I was actually hoping, and this is why I want to do the spoiler talk section, because I'm hoping someone agrees, I wanted Paul Rudd, I wanted the dad to die. I hated the fucking dad in this movie. I thought it was so well done. Again, normally in these dynamics, they're going for like, the dad doesn't understand the daughter, and normally you're kind of sitting there being like, okay, we'll go easy on the dad. In this, I want that dad to fucking die. I thought he was terrible. Like, he constantly gaslights his own daughter, doesn't listen to her, and like has literally seen a unicorn, literally has seen the same shit she has, and just gaslights her and acts like she's this embarrassing idiot in front of people that he really has no business trying to impress. On top of that, there's a point where he refuses to acknowledge a memory that they have, that they shared with the mother before she passed away. He refuses to admit that he remembers that because he doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of his like rich friends. Terrible. And then he has the gall, he has the nerve, he has the audacity to gaslight Jenna Ortega and be like, oh, you know, like, is this really, would your mother have done this? It's a rough moment. And I think one of the greatest moments of the movie is when Jenna Ortega goes, if you go into the woods, I'm leaving you. Basically, I'm leaving you to die. And she gets in the car and he goes off to the woods anyway, and she can't do it. She can't leave him. And I thought it was a really well done, earned moment in such a silly, goofy movie. I was actually sitting there. I felt Jenna Ortega's pain. I felt her frustration. I was like, I get why you don't like your dad, but I also get that he's a bit of a fucking goofball and you're struggling to leave him. And to get more into spoilers, I absolutely love that moment at the start of the movie. I mentioned it earlier, but when she's on his shoulder, so the movie opens and she's resting on his shoulder, sleeping on, I think, an airplane. It's on an airplane, right? And he's dropped some paperwork and he's desperately sticking out his foot, trying to like reach the paperwork, seemingly to not wake Jenna Ortega, not wake his daughter. And then eventually just goes, fuck it, and grabs the sheets of paper, and she falls and bangs her head. Now, initially, I was like, okay, that's just a funny comic moment, and it shows how much he cares, how much he was desperately trying to avoid waking her up, and it was a bit misguided because it ended up hurting her. But I think what is more telling is I don't blame him for accidentally hurting her because he was just trying to get the papers. What I do blame him for is when she bangs her head pretty viciously, he doesn't go, oh my God, are you okay? No, he like shifts blame and goes like, oh, well, you decided to sleep on me and that happened. Like, he doesn't go, oh my God, are you okay? I'm so sorry. I was just reaching for the papers. So instantly you're like, oh, this dynamic's weird. And then she sits there and she's like, oh, really? That seems strange. I wouldn't do that, would I? Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Also, I like the parents of the unicorns that come back and start fucking shit up. I thought it was cool. I also like the way the powers of the unicorns were explored. Like it was kind of neat. And truthfully, when Paul Rudd, when we had the fake out death, we all knew the unicorns were gonna like heal him. But I was actually kind of vibing with the idea that Paul Rudd died. Now I do love the ending though. I actually really fuck with the ending. So they get arrested, right? Because a cop shows up, everyone's dead, and then the unicorns fuck with them, right? You get the vibe from the movie that the unicorns really kind of can tell instinctively who's a good person and who isn't. So they vibe with Paul Rudd and they vibe with Jenna Ortega. They don't vibe with any of the rich people trying to experiment on them. So they're being taken off in a police car and the unicorns come after them and kind of give them this knowing look like we're about to fuck up the car. And I think what I like here is what it's implied. It doesn't show any of this happening, but the implication is basically these unicorns are going to kill everyone in the car, right? They're going to push the car off the cliff, killing the cop and killing Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. But these unicorns have the ability to essentially resurrect people. So they'll resurrect Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. And it leaves you with the question, would they be bringing the cop back to life or letting the cop die in order to set Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega free? And like, I don't even know if this was intentional or what the movie was going for, but I was sitting there being like, based on what we've seen, do we think that the unicorns would bring the cop back to life as well if that incriminates them? But also the fact that the cop has seen these unicorns and seen the damage they cause, I guess, kind of shows that Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega would be telling the truth. I just thought it was a neat movie, all right? And not everything needs to be The Brutalist or Baby Girl or Anora. You know, sometimes you can just see a fun, silly movie and turn your brain half off and just enjoy it. Like I saw Novocaine this weekend, and that was stupid too. Like that was a dumb movie for the first 20 minutes, but once it got into it, once it got into its groove the same way this movie did, I actually really enjoyed it. So yeah, if it interests you, go see Death of a Unicorn. It's not bad. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have a lovely day. Please consider getting a membership to this channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. I'm currently covering every episode of White Lotus for members, and after that, it is up to the audience to decide what I cover next. There's also a podcast where I talk about everything I've seen in a given month, both movies and TV shows. So if this interests you, please consider getting a membership to this channel. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and have a lovely day.